Good morning. So we're on the road again. We're going down to the sub-store today, down in Christchurch, Bournemouth. Going to go and have a look at a Starboard Sprint 23 by 14. Yeah, so it's been on our list of boards to review, to test and sort of potentially have for a while. Yeah, now an opportunity's got. It's come up to sort of try one out. So yeah, we're heading down there to give it a try. Really, it's not potentially the best weather for such an activity.
Cool. Down here at the sub-store, trying out the Starboard Sprint 23. Yeah, it's been quite interesting day actually. Can't really tell from here, but it's ridiculously windy. So there's some footage on the water as well. You can see it's tide against wind as well. This is a tidal estuary, so yeah, it's got a bit of a downwinder on the other section. Out. It's really cool. Just to sort of see how that works really. So out on a sprint today. Obviously, as you can probably see, we've got wind chop, so perfect conditions for trying a new board out. But it will give us a bit of downwind and upwind sort of capabilities. So you should see that nose is dagger-like. Really weird.
Interesting, it's like more rolly but less tippy, if that makes any form of sense. Let's not stare at that. No, it's amazing. You're hiding from the Rangers, this one's. Okay, that was pretty turbulent water there. I'm not sure it catches on the GoPro, but I was pretty happy in that. So that's quite interesting. So at the moment we've got the race fin on. Starboard race fin, so it's obviously a relatively sizable fin. So it's getting a bit of movement from the river from that. Under a bridge and through some rapids, should be fun.
Yeah, the board. Interesting to paddle. The cockpit feels quite small, so it's hard to gauge it. This tapers back in. This sort of comes back in on the cockpit, which gives you a little bit more width down here. But it does touch the outside of your legs. Your foot's in there. It sort of just touches on the ankle as you go by, which feels quite reassuring almost actually. As it tips, you kind of get a little bit of a, yeah, that's moving over. But yeah, really good. The nose is a dreamy thing to stare at, which is hypnotising. They pinched in the width here a lot, and yeah, it just pierces through, and I couldn't bury it. I was sort of getting quite far forwards on the board on my second go out, trying to bury it, and it just shedded water really well. So I think it's that wave piercing nose does very, very well. That's sort of what it's doing. It's also a lot more low profile. It doesn't catch the wind as much if you think the water line's waterline sort of here. So yeah, there's not much out of nose sort of. Okay, waterline's well after. There's a lot less nose out of the water. Yeah, I was sort of paddling into and across the wind quite a lot, and it just felt super slanted, super nice. The thing it does do is it rolls rather than tippy. Other boards I've been on have got a tippy feel, but this one's definitely got a roll, which feels a bit different, but it feels a bit more reassuring because it's not left, right, it just sort of sways around, which is quite nice. We'll flip the board over so you can see the bottom shape. As you can see, it's perfect. You can see it goes into this quite sort of keeled start. It's quite hard to see, and rounds off, and then sort of back with the first Venturis, which are in between the two Skull Venturis, just standing in the middle of those ish. It flattens off quite nicely there, and it sort of remains quite flat free. I like this paddle. That project comes to the rescue. Yeah, so it's not flat. It looks flat, but it's not. It's still a bit domed, but it feels super stable, really. And the water release is really hard today to sort of work out the speed of the board. We had like a 3-4 knot wind, 3-4 knot tide, and then a 20 knot wind. So I can get my feeling and how fast the water felt off the board, but yeah, not really. Couldn't really get a feel for how it was actually going. Just walking over now. I'm gonna hide behind the van. The Starboard, it's rolly. It rolls back and forth, but it feels very predictable. And then it rolls to a certain point. Then that secondary stability hits in again, and as soon as that hits in, it just stops and just throws you back, almost throws you back the other way. As I say, with the smaller cockpit as well, it kind of gives you a bit of a warning when you get to a certain point, because my standing position on it probably needs a bit of tweaking, but today on the standing position it sort of rolled to a certain point. I feel it on my ankle and say, okay, it's doing that. I can do a little bit of a brace stroke or kick in. Yeah, it was like obviously horrible conditions today, as you can see. But those horrible conditions are quite good to test a board. I think if I went out on a flat board, I could then I could analyse the top speed and all that sort of strokes per side, sort of before having to changing fins over, those sort of things. But it's going down the back straight, which I've got some footage of, was hard work. I can't really analyse the speed, but yeah, I was going like 5-6 kilometres an hour, but like that was in 20 knot wind, so I don't think any other board I've ever paddled, I wouldn't have been able to make headway in that, I don't think. Not as quickly as I was still making quite good headway. Also did a few step back turns as well. Fine, walking uphill, got used to that, that's all good. Footwork's certainly not brilliant, but it's okay. Something I definitely need to work on, but the element of the step back turn, I think with the Starboard, a pivot turn at the top in 20 knots of wind, and the Starboard walking back felt the same. Again, that rolly element rather than tippy, which felt quite reassuring, rolling back and forth. I think it's that sort of the main dome at the bottom of the board. But at no point did I ever think, oh, this is uncontrollable. I could turn it into the wind, out of the wind, and then eventually sort of kick it around, and I can do 180 with one paddle stroke. Starboard square tail, it just flicks around on the pivot. I'm not very good at pivots. Something I definitely need to work on. I can do one side but not the other. But yeah, that's there. As I say, we're down at the SUP store. It's a very kindly let us use their board for the day. Which, yeah, amazing, really nice store down in Christchurch, down on the south coast.